So there is more bad news for President Trump. He is having another Me Too moment. Now, this one involves a staffer on President Trump's 2016 campaign. Now, she claims that President had, then campaign Trump, nominee Trump, says he kissed her without consent at a gathering of supporters before a rally in Florida. So now, in interviews with the Washington Post and in a lawsuit, Alva Johnson, that's her name, claimed that Trump had grabbed her hand and leaned in to try to kiss her as he exited an RV outside a rally in Tampa on August 24th of 2016. Johnson said she turned her head and the unwanted kiss landed, and I hate to bring up this visual because it's terrible, but it ended up landing on the side of her mouth, which she called, quote, both super creepy and inappropriate. No kidding. I'm sorry, but that is a horrifying graphic. Like, just think of that in your head. Ugh. It's the stuff of nightmares. And in fact, as she later recounts in the story, that is exactly what happened. She started having nightmares about this. But okay. Now, Johnson, in case you're wondering too how the story kind of unfolds, after this happened, Johnson said she told both her boyfriend and different family members, her mother and stepfather, about the incident. Later that day, an account all three confirmed to the Post. Now, 2 months later, Johnson also consulted a Florida attorney about the unwanted kiss. He then gave the Post text messages showing that he considered her credible, but ended up not taking her case for business reasons. So now that's interesting. Why did he not take the case, even though he found her very credible? That's really kind of strange. Maybe he didn't want any sort of friction with who could be the future president of the United States. I don't know. Now, the attorney did give Johnson the name of a therapist who did note, which the Post reviewed, reference an unspecified event during the campaign that left her distraught. So that's very interesting. That is a huge, pretty big body of evidence here that something may have actually happened because it is documented, and that's why, of course, this seems very, very credible. Now, let's go to the White House reaction. Now, in a statement, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders dismissed Johnson's allegation as, quote, absurd on its face. Quote, this never happened and is directly contradicted by multiple highly credible eyewitness accounts. Now, some of those, unsurprisingly, those accounts that push back against it are people that are highly placed in the Trump campaign, including Pam Bondi. Now, this is, and another is a campaign official. They denied seeing that and said, well, I didn't see anything happen. What, there is no kiss. What are you talking about? Now, we'll get to Pam Bondi later. Now, let me give you some background about Alva Johnson. Now, what she's doing, not only that, so the information first. Johnson is an event planner who lives in Alabama. And what she's doing is she's suing the president for emotional pain and suffering. Now, the federal lawsuit filed Monday in Florida alleges that the campaign discriminated against Johnson, who is black, by paying her less than her white male counterparts. Now, is that shocking? No, I don't find that shocking at all. And that's not just a Trump thing, by the way. Look, I think women in general tend to get paid less than male counterparts, whether it be a campaign or jobs. That's not really a Trump problem. That's a societal problem, to be 100% fair. So, look, if something is done due to this that maybe helps equalize pay, okay, then great. But I don't see anything specifically happening from that on that front. And that's sad because we do need to do something as a society to make sure men and equal do get equal pay for equal work. Now, another timeline here, or to go to the timeline here, Johnson said she had begun to consider coming forward on October of 2016. Now, this only happened after video surfaced of Trump bragging about kissing and groping women without their consent. That was, of course, that Access Hollywood tape. So she saw that and she's like, oh my God, that's what happened to me. Now, maybe I should consider going forward, but maybe not. I don't know. She said she was nervous about speaking out, but had come to regret working on the campaign. She said, quote, "I've tried to let it go. You want to move on with your life? I don't sleep. I wake up at 4 in the morning looking at the news. I feel guilty. The only thing I did was show up for work one day." Look, I feel bad for her, right? But at the same time, she did work for a man who was both racist and sexist, who has a long history of doing this kind of thing. It's not like we didn't warn you, right? But nonetheless, I do feel bad for her. And look, this is why she, for me, is getting the benefit of the doubt, right? So now, uh, look, you might be wondering why should, you know, why should anyone think of even consider, supporting Donald Trump, especially somebody who's black? Why would they? Well, apparently, according to her, she didn't know better, right? So now the Post described her as not having a long history of political activism. She was a registered Democrat in California. She did say she voted for Obama in both 2008 and 2012, but said Trump might be able to use his business experience to help black communities. Now, that is very interesting. That's something Obama did not do. He didn't focus on helping black community. This is not me saying it. This is a lot of African American progressives that have said, hey, wait a minute. Obama's not helping us. He's more interested in helping the status quo and helping the donors. Well, maybe this guy who's not the same, who is definitely anti-establishment or came off that way, well, maybe he'll do something about it. Well, it turns out, no. That didn't happen. Not only that, but Johnson also said she got interested in the Trump campaign through her stepfather, Jacob Savage. She also met Trump at a November rally in Alabama, where Johnson said the candidate looked her up and down and said, quote, "Oh, beautiful, beautiful, fantastic." So from the first moment, he was allegedly eyeing her. Okay. Now, she said she let that go and took a job as the campaign's director of outreach and coalitions in Alabama. Now, and for 3 months before the general election, Johnson was assigned to Florida, and her main responsibility was managing recreational vehicles. Great. Now, the alleged incident happened inside one of those recreational vehicles. Apparently, she said, as Trump walked up to the bus, she said, "Good job, boss." She then brought volunteers into the RV to take pictures with President Trump, and she then told him, "You're doing an awesome job. Go in there and kick ass." Trump then grasped her hand, thanked her for her work, and leaned in for the alleged kiss. She said, quote, "Oh my God, I think he's going to kiss me. He's coming straight for my lips, so I turn my head and he kisses me right in the corner of my mouth, still holding my hand the entire time. Then he walks out." She then said she felt humiliated, and Pam Bondi had given her a smile as she walked out of the RV. Karen Giorno, director of the Florida campaign, grabbed Johnson's elbow and gave it a tug, Johnson said in the interviews and lawsuit. Bondi and Giorno said they do not recall seeing Trump kiss Johnson, and they denied it. Quote, "Do I recall seeing anything inappropriate? 100% no. I'm a prosecutor, and if I saw something inappropriate, I would have said something." Would you have, Pam? See, I'm not buying it. I don't believe her. Why? It's because, look, when you look at Pam Bondi, I look at somebody who has been bought by the Trump administration. See, back in 2016, President Trump was being sued by the city of New York over tax fraud, right? Bondi's office was considering joining that suit. However, 4 days after she announced the possibility of joining that lawsuit, she received a $25,000 donation from the Donald J. Trump Foundation. When that happened, she abandoned the lawsuit. I don't trust Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi has shown that she will do whatever is expedient for her campaign and for her career. So I don't trust in her word. I don't know who Karen Giorno is, but she's also denying that anything happened. So, okay. Now, Another reason that I don't trust the accounts from the campaign that actually put more stock in these allegations. Trump's been accused multiple times of doing this, and then bragging about doing it on tape. Plus the records that she has texts, therapy appointments, she has her family that she immediately told right after this allegedly happened. Look, I believe her. I do believe her. I mean, and look, her boyfriend worked for the Trump campaign as well. His name was Manuel Rego. And he said, quote, "I thought it was crazy that he had kissed her. I didn't know how to process it." Not only that, but she called her stepfather, and he said, quote, "I felt it was a betrayal of trust. I felt I was responsible because had I not introduced her to the campaign, she would not have been in that position." Johnson also discussed the incident with her mother and Savage, and she was, quote, "hysterical." She is having nightmares because of what happened, according to her therapist, and these are notes that, of course, she showed to the Post. So here we have another credible allegation against the president. How many more will there be? How many more? And where will be the point where Republicans start to actually care about these allegations? I don't think there is one. Look, this isn't a bug, it's a feature. Oh, you want to be misogynistic and you want to just do whatever you want with women without asking them? Sure, go ahead. That's how we used to do it in the good old days. What do you think Make America Great Again actually stood for? Come on. Look, what's sad about this, though, is that this is probably not going to stick. I mean, people aren't going to care, unfortunately. I think it's important because I think it's important to report these things, because I think what we need is a change in how we treat women in our society. But unfortunately, right now, we have this sad reality. None of these women are not going to see any sort of justice. Misogyny is deeply ingrained in our society. And look, it's also ingrained in our politics. And while there are bad actors that definitely weaponize it, use it against good people, for example, calling people like Bernie Sanders sexist, that's ridiculous, right? No, that comes from people that are high into power and will know how to weaponize this against good people to keep them out of power. But this is not that kind of situation. The vast majority that this stuff happens, that these allegations come out, they're true. And we tell women just to deal with it and instead of fight back. Well, now women are fighting back. And so we'll see what happens, what comes out if this lawsuit goes forward into court, or if the administration settles. We'll have to see going forward. But I hope she gets some sort of justice if this is true. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.